check it out, man. We're back here on another episode of the Players Circle. I got one of my favorite guys, man, that I've ever had the opportunity to coach. Got the chance to know him in high school, man, at Nolan Catholic High School. Great kid, great family. Man, Nana, introduce yourself, man. Tell us who you are, where you're from. Tell us all your crazy habits, man. What do we need to know about you?
How y'all doing? My name is Nana Osafo-Mensa. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas originally. I went to Nolan Catholic High School, like Coach P was saying, and then I went to Notre Dame for 5 years. After that, I decided to transfer to TCU back in the hometown Fort Worth for my last year eligibility, my 6th year. Played defensive end, played for all different types of coaches from Brian Kelly to Coach Marcus Freeman. Now I'm playing for Coach Sonny Dykes. I've had a lot of D-line coaches from Coach Mike Ellison, who's now with the Chargers, Coach Al Washington, who came from Ohio State, coaching linebackers. Now he's at Notre Dame, and now I'm getting coached by Coach Avalos, the old Boise State head coach and Oregon defensive coordinator a couple years back. So, yeah, I'm just ready to go.
Hey, man, I got you, man. I got you. So check it out, man. So let's talk about how we got started, right? So, man, you go back to the high school process. You're at Nolan, man. You get recruited by everybody and their mom, right? Yeah. You know, you get the All-American honors, all that good stuff, man. How did you stumble upon Notre Dame? What made you choose Notre Dame over all the other schools?
Honestly, for me, picking Notre Dame, it was really just the fact that every other school kind of showed me the same type of stuff, from just showing me like the facilities, showing me the jersey, showing me the swag, the drip of the school, showing me like the flashy stuff. But when I went to Notre Dame, they really took the time to ask me personally what I wanted to see. They even took the time to let me go to a couple classes and see what a classroom setup is like, let me see what the dorm is like a fancy dorm. Like, it let me see how the dorms really were. And then I got to just be around players and be around students on just like a day-to-day basis. For my 3-day visit up there, I was with them majority of the time versus like being with the coaches most of the time in meetings or going over football stuff. I got to see more of the life side of what my college experience would be. And growing up, I never really had a dream college, nothing like that. So I never had a school that if they just reached out to me, I knew I was going to automatically commit there. So when I went to Notre Dame for my visit and just heard about it, I mean, I've been in Catholic school my whole life, really since about 5th grade. So going up there to visit that and seeing what that Catholic faith is like in terms of incorporating it into like the student body and incorporating it into just the overall general student life just really grabbed my attention, grabbed my parents' attention. I just really knew that was a place I wanted to go. So, committing, definitely don't regret it at all. I definitely had a great time at Notre Dame. I mean, I met some great people, met some great coaches, and learned a lot of good football up there. Definitely believe that I not only increased my football skill, but also increased my football IQ with all the great coaches I had up there. So definitely enjoyed my experience up there for sure.
Hey, man. So they took you to class, huh?
Yeah.
You the first one ever told me that anybody's done that before.
Yeah. It was lit, though. So I really wanted to see what that was like. Because, I mean, Notre Dame, a big academic school, I wanted to know, like, okay, this is like hard classes and crazy atmosphere in the classroom. But they took me to class up there with, like, one of my host that time was Khalid Kareem. I think it was like a business management major or something like that.
Yeah,
so took a couple business classes and just let me sit in there.
Oh, yeah, man. A&M ain't do none of that when I went down there, man. Hey, here's this. Well, that's interesting. Huh? Well, that makes sense, though, with Notre Dame when you're looking at the academic side. I see how that works. Let me ask you this. Let's talk about the coaches, man. At the time, you had Brian Kelly there at Notre Dame. How big of a factor was the coaching in your decision making when it came to the school? Was that a big factor? Was that just a plus? How did that factor in?
I would say it was definitely more of a plus. I mean, I felt like a lot of the coaches I was able to get on business with and meet were also just big on me too. Like back when Kevin Sumlin was back at A&M, or when Jim Mora was I think it's Jim Mora, when he was at UCLA.
I remember that. Yep.
Coaches like that were always big on me, big on my phone and all that. And although some of those coaches got fired, like Coach Kelly and Coach Elsa were, because actually when I was getting recruited by Notre Dame, my biggest recruiter was Coach Elko. So that was big for me, and I got a whole big relationship with him. Yeah, because he even came down to one of our games.
He was at Notre Dame at the time, wasn't he? Sure was.
So he came down to the homecoming game, so me and him were the ones that were tight. So when he ended up leaving, I was like, dang. But, I mean, Coach Kelly and Coach Elson were still heavy on me. But, I mean, I always knew that you don't pick a place based on the coach. And I'm pretty sure you even told me that in my recruiting process. You and Coach Bowden.
I remember telling you that.
So I was like, okay. I mean, Coach Kelly was always a cool guy. Coach Elson was cool, too. So I always had, a little bit of trust for him already, and just felt comfortable enough to be able to go up there and play for them. So it wasn't too big of a factor for me in deciding it. I just knew that it was a place I wanted to be.
That's good, man. That's good. So, all right. Now, the number one thing I always get with my guys, they always start talking about the girls. They start talking about the lifestyle, all that. All right, so I need you to speak to that. Okay, you still in it right now. So if you can go back and let's say you're talking to your 18-year-old self, let's say I bring you to one of my practices and you talking to all the guys, and they start asking you about that. What would you tell them? What is the college experience like? What are the pitfalls they need to look out for? What are the things that you would advise the guys on?
I would say the biggest thing I would advise guys on is at the end of the day, you can pick whatever you want. Like you can pick what matters to you the most. So like that's the first thing. So like if you want to go somewhere where you got, bad females and great looking women, maybe Notre Dame isn't your best option. I mean, you're going to be in a very more gritty, smaller population type of place, like a lot of Midwestern people versus you go to like somewhere on the West Coast, you're going to have the girls always on the beach. If you go to Texas, you're going to have, girls always in Texas. You can go to Miami, Florida, like you can easily go to a bigger state school and find that. But if you want to go somewhere that would really set up your life, I feel like for the long run and things, and you're really going to make some great connections in terms of the people you meet, then I would always recommend a place like, Notre Dame, a place like Northwestern, a place with like high academic achievement, because compared to just the players that you're going to have on your team, the people you're going to be in classrooms with, because I feel like whatever school you go to, students are always going to be in awe of football players, no matter what. I mean, you're always the bigger one. You stand out a whole lot. So if you go to a school with high academic achievement, you're also going to be around people that come from high academic achievement, which also is going to end up meaning you're going to be meeting the smartest of the smartest in the nation. Like these people the people are at Notre Dame for a reason. I remember I was meeting people that really left their whole home country in China to Peru, to Brazil, coming over here. Like the way that we see Oxford over there in England, they see Notre Dame like that here in America. So you're going to be surrounding yourself with the best type of people. So that's why I really chose Notre Dame, because I knew I was going to end up coming out of it with relationships and networking that I knew I couldn't really get anywhere else. So you just really got to look at it as, yes, I'm sure 95% of people that go into college football want to go to the NFL for sure. But how important is your backup plan for you personally? And that was big for me, because I knew that league or not, you're only going to be in the league for so many years. Like only so many people are going to be playing 15 plus years in the league. But then what are you going to do after that? What are you going to do after you retire at you're 28 and you still got all them years to live? And if you have that Notre Dame degree behind you to support you, then that can really set you up for life.
Well, you make me look like a proud pop over here. Look at you, man. Sound like a grown man, dog. All right, so I'm glad you said that. So I want to touch on it. Here's one thing that I tell people all the time. Like, I understand the transfer portal, I get all that, and like your situation is different. I know I talked to Sean yesterday. Like his situation is a little different, man. You guys got your degrees, but man, I see guys flipping and flopping all over the place, but they're not understanding the relationships. I'm like, bro, you can get education anywhere. We being real, you can get education anywhere. It's more of the networking that you're speaking to.
Exactly.
I got my own radio show with A&M. I do the pregame show with A&M. I've had opportunities because of my affiliation with Texas A&M. Let me ask you this, based on that question. Now that you're still in school, but you got your degree, man, and we'll get into the transfer stuff here in a second. But knowing what you know now, I guess it would be a twofold question. What's the thing that you didn't know that surprised you about college? And then what and how important are the connections? How have the connections, for example, let's say Notre Dame, how have they helped you? Where have they come in place, man, where you least expected it?
So the first thing I would say is the biggest surprise to me in college was honestly how political the college football world can be. And sometimes, unfortunately, that stuff can be completely out of your control, which is it just sucks. Lucky enough, I was a victim of it a little bit. I mean, there's always going to be sometimes, no matter how hard you work sometimes, and I hate saying this because I never want to disencourage someone to work, but sometimes there's going to be players that you can work your tail off every day. You can be in the meetings early, you can be taking notes, you can be the most locked in person, but if there's something above you that the coaches just don't see in you, or they just don't believe that you'll be able to achieve, you might be screwed over and not play. And it sucks because you can be doing everything right. And if they just don't see you as that fitting piece, then it sucks. And I use that type of advice to tell players that go to the school that really wants you. Because I think some people get caught up in the bits and glamours of the schools that look the best and the schools that are winning and the schools that send people to the league, and they forget that those guys are also not just recruiting you, but they're recruiting tons of other players around the nation. But if you find a school that really wants you, that means they really want to put you in a system right away. And all that stuff that happens politically is not going to be to harm you. But secondly, the idea about networking, I would definitely say networking, especially now that I've graduated and I've had friends that graduated.
Yeah.
People don't realize how important networking really is. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that. And I even say that because I've had friends that graduated from Notre Dame that were the highest honors, was it like summa cum laude, something like that or whatever. And they'll even graduate and struggle to find jobs versus someone that went to networking events, had a BC average, and met a ton of people and are already set up because of who they knew and who they were able to. It's not even about, because I used to always say it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, but it's really about who knows you. And with that,
Yeah.
when you have that, you'll be set up for life because there's people that really barely got their degree at Notre Dame, but since they knew somebody or they knew somebody that knew somebody else, they're already set up working a job or they got an internship early. So I'm telling you that networking is really the key to having that future success in the world, because it's not the same where you could just put your resume down. You have Notre Dame, they're like, oh, you went to Notre Dame? Boom, of course, let's hire you. It's more like, you went to Notre Dame? Okay, cool. Who are you though?
Yeah.
You know? And people don't, I feel like, don't realize that. So you really should look into all the networking, see where people from this school went to get jobs, see where they are in the nation, and see how that appeals to you and what you want, really.
All right, let me ask you this then. I got a question. How important is playing football then? Or the better question is, how many doors has being a Notre Dame football player, a TCU football player, open for you? And
It's
how can
open.
you use that to your advantage?
It's open a lot because
Yeah.
it's also, football is always going to open doors for you because people are going to always be impressed by what you were able to accomplish. The fact that you were able to balance a load of football and academics versus all the other external stress that goes on in your life from family, friends, social stuff, whatever it is. People are always going to be impressed by what you were able to accomplish. Now, I say this, and I also want to emphasize that the amount of doors that are going to be open are going to be dependent on how many doors you're willing to walk through early on, not in the later process. So a lot of schools have some different type of networking opportunities, and some people always will see it as like, oh, I don't want to go sit at this restaurant and talk to these old people for an hour. Like, it might sound like it sucks, but you have no idea how much you go into that meeting or going to that sit down. You're going to get a business card from somebody. You're going to connect with someone on LinkedIn. They're going to follow you on IG, whatever it is. And down the road, you'll be set up. And like, I say this as a matter of fact, because like when I was at Notre Dame last year, we went to Ireland to promote a game that we had in August. So we went there.
I remember that.
Yeah, we went there in March. We just shot like some videos, took pictures, met people. And at the time, I was interested in law school potentially. So I ended up meeting a law firm that we were just doing the promotion at, told them about it. And they're like, hey, if you want, you can come back here in June for 2 weeks and do an internship with us free. We'll pay for everything. We'll pay for the flight. We'll pay for your stay, all that stuff. And I was able to do that. Came back, did my internship, got set up, and I met a ton of crazy connections out in Ireland. They're like, hey, do you ever really want to come back here, live here, get a job here? We'll help you out. And that's just because through the network opportunity, I decided to go to Ireland for a spring break and promote the game versus going to like Miami and partying with my boys. So just like small little opportunities like that can really set you up for life and you have no idea it's coming.
I love that, man. Boy, you giving game, you don't even know it right now.
Exactly.
That's beautiful, man. Like, you giving game, and like you said, man, you're taking an opportunity. Like, you're never going to be more popular than you are right now.
Facts.
This is what it is. Trust me. I'm a former college player, NFL player. You're never going to be more popular than what you are right now, right? So take advantage of that. So look, let's transition to this. You got recruited in high school. You got recruited in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
All right. When you got recruited in high school, you thought one way. Now that you graduated, you got your 2 degrees, man, you get in the transfer portal. What's the thought process now? What are you going through now? What are you looking for now? What's important to you now when you're in that process? What's the difference between high school recruiting and portal recruiting?
I would say the difference between high school recruiting and further on recruiting is the fact that high school, you're a young kid. Everybody wants you. Boom. So you're going to be popular. And the thing that's really helping you out the most as a high school kid is solely projections. Like, all these coaches are projecting on where you're going to be, projecting how you're going to develop, projecting how you're going to play. It's a little bit different versus you transferring later on, especially depending on how many years of eligibility left, because now they have film and they know how you're going to play. So they're looking at it as, how is he going to be able to come in and benefit us and not even an on the field solely type of way. Like, is he a leader? Is he a problem maker off the field? Is he locked into school? Like, now they have a lot more things to look at before wanting to get you on. And with that, unless you were the number one D tackle or receiver in the nation at the time, and you're trying to come in to go to a new school, you're not going to be recruited by the 30 schools that was recruiting you back in high school. If anything, you're going to be recruited at some smaller schools, or you're going to be recruited at less big-time schools. And then it becomes a question of, are you comfortable with that? Are you sure your situation is bad enough to be able to put yourself in that situation? Because, I mean, you have some guys that could be playing in Michigan 1 year, and then they might end up playing at some small school like Florida A&M. Like, no shot to them, but that's definitely a big difference between Michigan and a school like that. So you just have to really be sure how you are trying to go in the transfer portal. And that's like a whole just crazy situation now, especially if you throw NIL in there right now. It's absurd. It's a crazy topic.
Hey, man, that was my next question, though. How is this NIL game working, man? Because, you hear all these crazy numbers. You apparently everybody getting paid out the butt. How does it work, man? Like, you've been at a major program, right? So, like, when we talked with Sean last time, Sean talked about how, it was cool at Incarnate Word, whatever. We had a little bit of Texas State, but you had Notre Dame, bro. Creme de la creme. You know what I mean? Now you at TCU. How does the NIL game really work, man? What is it really like?
The NIL game, like, all in all, is simply that whatever school you at, every school is going to have, or at least majority of schools are going to have their own basis of an NIL. They're going to have at least one thing that gets the whole team right. The only thing about that is whatever system that is will usually depend on who the player is, how they play, how important they are to the program. So let's take Notre Dame, for example. So Notre Dame was I like Notre Dame the way they did it, because Notre Dame was pretty open about who was getting what and had a reason to who was getting what. And so everybody basically kind of understood that you could eventually build your way up and all that.
Right.
Now, TCU does the same thing, but there's also like extra factors that come into it. So versus Notre Dame, where maybe the top 5 players that have produced, shown off that they're the top 5 guys, they bring in the most social media follow, they have the biggest following, those guys will be getting paid more. Versus TCU, it might be more of a kind of who's popular, but it doesn't really depend on matter of who they were on the field. I mean, you could have a guy that maybe has been injured a couple of times, a guy that's not really the leader, but a guy that's maybe just has a bigger name, especially in the sense of like Fort Worth. Like, they might be getting paid a little bit more extra than somebody else. Or you might have someone that is getting a tail whooped every day in practice, not even playing a lot, and they might be getting paid more than some guy that's already out that's out there whooping butt. And it gets the only reason I don't like the way TCU does it is because we also talk about it a lot. And honestly, I don't even know if this will get out and they'll hear it. Like, they can. I don't really have a problem with it, because I just think that one of our biggest issues is that, like us and NIL in general, sometimes you have guys that forget why we're in college. Like, why are we playing ball? Why are we trying to develop? Everybody now is talking about, I want to get paid. Why am I not getting paid this much? Why is he getting paid more than me? Versus if we just remember, if we all win and we all lock in and play ball, there's going to be more money coming in. Everybody's going to get paid. Versus trying to figure out, like, what do I have to do to get paid more than him? What do I have to do to make sure he's not getting paid more than me? Like, why not all of us just work out and have the idea of it and just go out and just ball out so we can all get the bread? And sometimes, like, as much as the players think about it, sometimes we'll have talks about it with our coaches. And I think that's the biggest problem, because like at Notre Dame, we never talked about NIL with our coaches. It was just strictly ball, strictly brotherhood. Versus at TCU, we sometimes we'll just talk about, what do you got to do to get your checkup? What do you got to do to get paid? Like, you could have let them go and get paid somewhere else, but you decided to stay. So how much does it mean to you like that? And I just feel like depending on the program, depending on how you really emphasize NIL, it can really just change the whole team's culture and the whole team's atmosphere, really.
Right. Man, bro, you answered all my questions, bro. I was about to ask you, how does the locker room deal with that, man? When you got guys getting paid, you guys may not be the starter, all that. That's interesting that you said that. Like, you made me think about something. How important is the brand building? Well, you know what? There's a couple questions. How important is the brand building? That's one. But if you could go back and let's say you're advising somebody. Let's say you go back to Nolan Cat. All right, we got a big guy, big recruit, 4-star, 5-star, whatever, All-American, okay? How important is the brand building, and how important is it from a strategic standpoint to stay close to home when it comes to the NIL factor now? What would you say to that?
I would say, to be honest with you, I've never been a full supporter of the whole idea of brand building, to be honest. Okay. I just think that the way, like, unless you're going to be, Travis Hunter, Johnny Manziel, Robert Griffin III, if you're not really projected or on the way to be a player like that, it's going to be very hard to incorporate your new brand to a fan base. Because in my opinion, I feel like how are you going to convince your fans to buy your products over a Nike t-shirt? Or how are you going to convince your fans to start wearing a t-shirt with your face on it versus something with LeBron or Kobe on it? Like, it's just very unlikely. And I mean, you can always do it because it's a cool little opportunity. And especially if you stay around your hometown, you're going to have a lot of NIL connections because everybody knows you from here. But then also look at it like this. How important is it for you to stay around your hometown when you finish ball? Or how important is it to you to be in your same city when you're done playing ball? Because in my opinion, I would advise someone to go make a name for themselves somewhere else. Because if you can do that, you're going to have more of a setup. I mean, you're already a big-time player in high school. People are still going to follow your name just because you go to somewhere like Oregon or something like that. But if you go to this new school across the nation, ball out, create a name for yourself, you're going to create a whole other network over there versus you just having to try to build your network more here in your own city. So that's why I've never thought that you have to really stay in your city. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of opportunities because you're from there. Everybody already knows you. People are going to keep knowing you. But why not go somewhere else and just basically expand your name nationwide and see what other opportunities you can have for yourself? Because you have no idea where you're going to end up after the ball anyway.
That's good, bro. Yeah. You're making me proud, man. Look at you, boy. All right, man. So check it out.
Whole lot of learning.
I know that you did your time in Notre Dame, and you talked about your experiences there. Now, when we talk about going to TCU, all right, so you made the decision to go to TCU. What was the deciding factors? What are you trying to get out of it? I know that you want to play ball. Everybody wants to go to the league. We understand that. That's the whole spec. But when it came down to TCU, what were the deciding factors, man? And what did you see, or what did they offer that you liked?
I think the biggest thing TCU offered for me was, the biggest thing that I was seeing out of the opportunity to come to TCU was my family, because my parents have been traveling across the nation, even all the way to Ireland, to see my games. And I mean, I love them to death because I knew they would always do that. But at the same time, I was like, dang, I have one opportunity and I could really just be close to home. My parents can easily just drive right down the street to the game. And I'm sure that they would love that. So that was a big thing for me, especially my dad, because he works a lot, like on call, off call at the hospital. Yep. So that was a big one for me. But in terms of like what TCU was talking to me about was, like, one thing about myself I've always valued is the way I've been able to be a leader. And TCU was telling me how much I'll be able to value to the team of being a leader and being able to like just lead guys with the experience I have and the personality I have. And I saw it as a great opportunity just outside of football too, because that's something that I'm always going to want to keep building. And at the same time, like, I know I had those leadership opportunities at Notre Dame, but at the same, like, me being there for 5 years, I felt like it kind of just plateaued. So it was kind of just the expected standard of mine versus me still being challenged to be a better leader and a better person for my teammates. And I thought there couldn't be another opportunity in doing it for a brand new team and being able to like find ways to get these guys to trust me and then find ways that I can help them out as much as they're going to help me. And then I feel like that could also make us a whole better team in general if we just bring the minds together. And I knew there were other transfers coming in, so I knew there would be guys also coming from great programs and probably even having the same type of leadership skills too. So we just really all put that together, then we can really build something that would be everlasting at TCU.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, shoot, man, we running up on time. I'm only going to ask a couple more questions, all right? So let's get into this one. If you could go back in time and if you could do something all over again, if you could do the recruiting process all over again, choosing a school all over again, all that stuff, what would be the thing that you would tell yourself, i.e. you're speaking to other high school guys, but what would be the thing that you would tell yourself or you would do knowing what you know now? Yeah, think on that one, big dog.
That's a good question.
Yeah. What would that be?
I think the biggest, like, honestly, I don't think I necessarily change. Actually, no, I definitely would. I would definitely say just make sure you trust the process all the time. And it's cliche for sure because I feel like everybody says that, but I feel like one thing people don't realize about college football, especially, young 18-year-olds about to go to whatever school they're going to go to, is nothing is going to come the way it's projected to be at first. And what these coaches are telling you, they might be telling you the truth, but do
Yeah.
not take that to heart, because if you do, you will find yourself in a dark place. And I just say that because, like, when I was getting recruited Notre Dame, they were talking about, yeah, come early, we'll get you on the field first fall you out here. I'm like, okay, bet. So I go out there, and I end up finding I'm not developed yet. And like, it sucked at first. I remember that first game we played Louisville away, and I'm thinking I'm finna travel and all that. I even told my parents they got a ticket. They already flew out there and everything. And I go see the travel roster. I'm not even on it. So I got to call my parents and be like, yo, I'm actually not even coming to the game. That's when I found out I was going to end up redshirting. And at first, it definitely hurt because I thought I just gave up my whole second half of high school to be able to come out here and play, and I'm not even ready for that. But I would definitely say you just have to be ready for those moments, and then realize that instead of just waiting for your time to come, like, truly take the time to find out how you can develop and all that. And at the same time, like, I don't know what ever could have happened. I mean, I redshirted my freshman year and I got hurt my sophomore year, like one of the workouts right before we started fall camp. And I don't know what would have happened if I was healthy that year, but at the same time, I'm never going to find out. But I do know that I was still able to just hone into what I needed to get better at, or hone into what I needed to focus at. And I had to wait my time, and it sucked. I remember how frustrated I would be from not playing the amount of snaps I wanted to play. Even like last year, I was playing a good amount of snaps, but I still wasn't playing what I felt like I deserved. And it just, you can't be weak-minded and give up on yourself when it comes to college football, because there's going to be stuff that happens that is completely out of your control, and it depends on who you believe that you are and what you're going to do with the opportunities you get. Because luckily enough for me, I didn't get as many opportunities as I wanted last year, but I've got enough to still make a name for myself and be able to move on to a place that I could really just take off and exclaim my name to the fullest factor of it. And I know what I'm capable of, and I've been able to show. So now I just know I can take off with it completely.
Love it, man. So last question on this. What would you tell parents? Okay. Because now you got some parents that aren't involved, you got some parents that are overly involved. What would you tell parents when it comes to the recruitment process?
What would I tell parents?
Yeah. From the athlete's perspective, you're an athlete. You've lived this life now. You've done it all, man. You've had the high recruiting rankings. You've been All-American. You've been in the portal. You had another high-level D1 school. For the parents who are trying to push their kids over the top, for the parents who are trying to control everything, for the parents who aren't even involved, what do the parents need to know about this process?
I would definitely tell parents that it's a very, very ugly process. And on top of that, there is almost nothing you can do as a parent that will benefit your kid. If you try to get too involved, you will only hurt the kid. If you try like blowing up a coach's phone talking about why is my son not playing, that will only, it's not high school. Like, I know how Coach Bowden and them, y'all was getting calls about my kid not playing and all that, because they might be able to fix that. But college, if you're not playing and you're in the coach's ear or something, if you're even able to get in contact with a coach and be blowing up his phone about it, then you're just going to hurt your kid. I can tell you that right now, because the coach will start just getting annoyed and not wanting to deal with all that, and even find a way to get your kid to low-key transfer out. If anything, I would just say to parents, like, keep checking in on your kid and just making sure they're okay, because although life might not go as I want it to be, and although that they might say that they're fine, your kid can really end up in some dark places through college football, because I've seen some of my own friends and teammates get into some dark places, and honestly, they sometimes even ended up getting punished for being in them dark places. So college football is not what it looks like on TV and the TV shows, like a whole lot deeper than what people really think that we go through. And I would just say that as a parent, like, definitely just make sure your son is okay, your son is happy, your son stays motivated, and your son like always remembers his why for why he's playing, for real, because sometimes it just gets hard up there and you never know what they're really going to go through. Because them being a big old 18, 20-year-old, they're going to think they got it all themselves, and they kind of forget to be able to rely on their parents. So also just keep loving on your kid and just find ways to be able to support him and not be a problem for the coaches, and just really just keep loving on your kid, really.
Man, I love it, man. Well, shoot, I ain't got nothing much to say. Well, boy, you did a hell of a job, man. Boy, you made me proud. I'm in there trying to give you $2 in NIL money, man, and go get you a pack of gum or something like that. Well, shoot, man, that's another episode of the Player Circle, man, where we're here just to educate you, man, give you the experiences of a college athlete through their eyes. Nana, I appreciate you, man. Look forward to watching you this season. And shoot, man, I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.